I don't know how the power grid works, so I'm going to build one from scratch. And that's what this new series is all about. How does the power grid work on a fundamental level? And I'm not just going to talk about how it theoretically works. We're going to actually build a mini power grid with our own heat generator, and then we're going to take that heat generator, produce electricity, take that electricity, and then distribute it to our mini homes within our city. So let's get started with this project. And this video is just going to be the intro of our power grid. So we're not going to actually be, soldering or looking at the engine. We're going to be establishing a base of what the power grid is, what our project needs to accomplish, and how we're going to go about accomplishing this. And that's where we're going to start. So what is the power grid? You can't make a power grid if you don't know what the power grid is. And so the power grid is simply a way of how we distribute electricity to cities, homes, and people. So we need an energy source, we need transmission lines, and then we need an energy output to make a full grid, okay? So that could be a basic grid. A basic grid could literally just be a circuit with a resistor, but we're going to go more complex. So how does the electricity get produced? So there's a few main ways that we do it today with solar power, wind power, geothermal, hydropower, but we're going to make either a steam pump or a Stirling engine, or we could also make a steam turbine, but we're going to talk about that in our engine episode. Just know for right now, we're using heat as our main energy source. So something's going to heat up our engine, and our engine's going to produce work output, and then it's going to spin. It's going to spin some gears, and then those gears are going to connect to our generator, and our generator is going to be connected to the power grid. So the generator we're going to use is going to be a brushless motor. So a brushless motor, if you don't know, has 3 terminals. And the 3 terminals give us a 3-phase output, a 3-phase delta output. And so if you don't know what 3-phase power is, let me explain this real quick too, okay? So your wall socket is single-phase AC. What does that mean? That means the current, the electricity in your wall outlet moves up and down in a sinusoidal wave 60 times per second, okay? It's a 60 hertz sine wave of electricity. So the electricity peaks at about 170 volts, and then it goes all the way down to negative 170 volts, and it keeps going up and down in a sinusoidal wave, just like that. And I say 170 volts because that's the actual peak. So the average of 170, or the RMS, the root mean square, is 120. And that's how you get that 120 number. All you gotta do is 120 times the square root of 2 is 170. That's why we say root mean square. The RMS value of something is that. And so the RMS value of your wall outlet is 120 volts. And people just say that because that's the most important value. It's what the average really is. But that was a little extra information. So now let's go into our sine wave. So our 3-phase sine wave. So 3-phase means there's 3 sine waves. Wow. And so we're going to take 3 sine waves. We're going to have them identical to each other. So we're going to take sine wave A, leave it alone. We're going to take sine wave B, and we're going to offset it by 120 degrees, just like this. And then we're going to take sine wave C, and we're going to offset it by 240 degrees, just like this. So you can see it makes this little peaking metric right here. And this allows us to distribute 3 independent sine waves only using 3 to 4 wires, depending, on our configuration. And so that's why the power grid uses this method, because we can output a lot of electricity using very minimal wires. And so we only need 3 to 4 wires to distribute 6 phases of power, or 6 independent units of power, which is crazy. And so that's why we use this method. And I say 3 to 4 wires because there's 2 configurations of this sine wave. There's the delta configuration, which is good for motors, and there's the Y configuration, which is good for transmission lines. And so that is the basic difference between delta and Y. We'll get more into the math later, but this is all you need to know for our little intro video. So our brushless motor sends out a delta three-phase power signal. We have to rectify this. Rectify simply meaning taking the AC power, converting it to DC, and that's going to run our control unit. Same thing in a normal power plant, except just different voltage levels. So the control unit is going to monitor our engine, making sure it's not too hot, it's getting coolant, it's how much power is it outputting, etc. And it's going to control our fuses on our relays too after the power grid. So if our electricity gets too high, it's going to shut off the power grid, etc. It's going to kind of just monitor everything that's happening. But our control unit runs on DC power, so we need to rectify the AC three-phase power coming out of our generator first to feed it to the control unit. This is exactly how a modern power plant works, and this is the same thing that our power plant is going to do too. And then once we rectify that, we have two methods of distributing the power grid after, okay? So we can either convert that new DC power source into a sine wave, or we can just use the three-phase sine wave coming out of the generator and put it directly on the power source. So there's two problems with this, which each of them too. So the first one, converting DC to AC, sounds simple, but it's actually really hard. It's because how do you make a flat line, an oscillating wave? That's pretty difficult. But when you do get it, and you have to use a microcontroller in order to control really the timing of that wave, you get a very accurate sine wave, and you can control pretty much everything about it. You can control its frequency, its amplitude, and I guess that's really all you can control, but that's pretty much everything about a wave anyway. And so that allows you to output power to the grid very accurately. And whereas the second method, which is actually controlling the engine, controlling the valves of the engine to either make it move faster or make it move slower. And this is more of a mechanical approach, but you don't have to have that messy conversion of DC to AC. You can control it mechanically. And it's a little slower on the accuracy, you could say, of our power grid, because if we want to speed up the frequency, we have to physically open up a valve, which will take a second for it to kind of ramp up the motor. This is how modern power plants do it though. They actually have valves that control the steam engine to make sure it's outputting the optimal power that it needs to. But this is how, the other way with the microcontroller is how solar panels work. So you have a solar panel and you want to convert it to AC electricity to distribute on the power grid. You need a DC to AC conversion source. And so that's how that method works. So both methods do work. Not quite sure what method we're going to do yet. We're probably going to do the DC to AC method just because it'll be easier for us to control it. But this is still in the makings. So once we have this three-phase AC electric signal coming out of the generator, we need to find a way to put it on the grid. So before it goes on the grid, it must be 60 hertz. So the US power grid, which is where I'm from, has a frequency of 60 hertz. So anything that gets placed on the grid must be at 60 hertz. And that's where the accuracy comes into play. You have to keep that generator spinning at 60 hertz, or outputting power at 60 hertz. So we have to monitor that too. And then when we go to the grid, likely our generator is outputting a very low voltage, okay? So depending on where the power plant is, depends on what voltage it needs to send to that grid. So power plants that are generally in the middle of nowhere, like a nuclear power plant, is going to have to send a very high voltage so it can carry across high voltage power lines. And you've probably seen these on the highway if you're in the US. I imagine they're in other places too, but there are these massive power lines. Generally, they kind of look like an evil monster just staring at you, and they have these very high energy power lines running all across them. And can you guess the voltage that these power lines are at? If you said 500 kilovolts, you're correct. These things are genuinely, there's so much energy in them. Or I take that back. There's so much voltage in them. There's just so much voltage, and so we need to step up this voltage in order to put it on our power line. And a typical normal generator at a factory might only output 13.8 kilovolts. So you have to convert 13.8 kilovolts to 500 kilovolts. And this might sound like a nightmare. Like, how the hell does this work? But engineers use something called a transformer. And a transformer is simply two wires wrapped around an iron core together, and the oscillating AC frequency can actually transmit power wirelessly to the other coil on the same iron core. And we can control the voltage extremely accurately like this. And so there's ways we'll talk about too where we can send a 13.8 kilovolts into this transformer, and it's going to transform it to 500 kilovolts. And this does not actually break any laws of thermodynamics. We're not creating energy, because electrical energy is voltage times current. So if we increase the voltage to 500 kilovolts, guess what decreases? The current. So the wattage stays the same, but we're just transforming whether the voltage is high or the current is high, essentially. And you might be thinking, why the hell would we go through all this struggle? Why is it 500 kilovolts? Well, let me take you back to Ohm's law. Ohm's law says that voltage equals current times resistance, right? So what does wattage output equal? I mean, we already said it's voltage times current equals watts, but current squared times resistance, I squared R, also equals wattage, and that actually equals resistive wattage too. So this is the wattage that we're kind of losing within our wires. And with a very mini DC circuit, this is almost negligible. Like, we don't even need to talk about this because the resistance is so low. But if you're transmitting electricity thousands, hundreds of miles away, that resistance is going to add up, and those wires are going to have some resistance. So if our, I guess, bad resistance or a bad or wasteful energy equation is current squared times resistance, well, if the current increases by a little bit, we're squaring that. We are squaring the current. So we have to keep that current down to a minimum so we don't have that big of a wastage. So if we increase the voltage, we decrease the current in order to keep the power the exact same. So with this low current, our wasteful energy will not be as high, because if the current's small, the natural wasteful energy is small. And then once we go back to homes, or we're at a subdivision, we're going to step down that voltage from 500 kilovolts back to 13.8 kilovolts. And then before it goes in your home, it's going to go from 13.8 kilovolts to 240 volts, essentially. And so we're stepping it down to a reasonable voltage. And when we step it down to a voltage, the current goes back up. And that's why you can safely plug in a lot of appliances within your house without blowing a fuse, because now you have ample current to supply to all of that. So that's the basic intro about how the power grid works. We're going to get a lot more complicated when we talk about each of these stages, like the engine stage, the distributing to the power grid stage, our transmission line stage, and then our output stage to our homes. But this is the general view about how a power grid works. And I hope you learned something from this. Again, check the description below this video. You'll see all of our links to our group chats. We have a school community now. It's a free school community as of right now. So please join this and give me feedback. Join the community. Talk to other engineers. We already have some people in here. And let's grow this community. Let's grow the hobby of electrical engineering so we can collaborate together with our ideas and really create something great. If you like tinkering, or if you watch all the way to the end of this video, chances are you're probably obsessed about electronics as much as we all are here. So please join the community, see what's up, discuss your project ideas, and we will help you. That's also linked in the description. It's free right now too, so you might as well just come check it out. And other stuff's in the description too if you want to see my circuits and etc. So that's it for this video. Next power grid video will be about making the engine. Thank you so much for watching.